So today we're going to talk about the new Agent Harbor and my first impressions of it, because I wanted to get a full sense of this agent to give you kind of a full impression of where this agent is going to fall in terms of power level and whatnot. So let's just talk about Harbor, the new controller agent for Valorant. And well, here are his abilities. We have Cascade, which is the C, which costs 150 credits, and we'll go through each of the abilities as well. We got Cove, which is 350 credits, his E ability, High Tide, and his ult, Reckoning. And we'll go through each of them and just quickly show you what they are. I'm sure most of you already know. So let's start with his first ability, which is Cascade, which costs 150 credits, and it's basically a big water wall that you send out like so, and eventually will stop, stay there for 5 seconds, and it goes about 40 or so, maybe just a bit less meters away from you if you let it go the full distance, but you can stop it as well. And as I said, it will stay here for 5 seconds as soon as it will stop, and once you go through it, you get a slow effect like so. And the way that you want to use this, and I think this is a great ability, by the way. Initially, I was kind of like, oh, that's a, you know, it just slows you a bit. What's the point in that? I think there is a lot of uses for this ability overall, in terms of like covering off angles, in terms of like manipulating the map to how you want. When people get really good at this, you know, you'll be able to find little corners on maps, little areas on maps where you can manipulate this wall, and it will be incredibly strong, right? Let's say we're on the defensive side, we know an attack is coming to us, right? It just gives you that space. You can block off the choke point with it. You're in a bad position, you can move around to somewhere else, right? Hello, Cypher. You know, all of that stuff. I think it's actually a very, very powerful ability. One thing in particular I think this is really, really good for is destroying operators, right? Let's say, you know, we've got a chamber down there, all the way down there, and he's aiming at us with our op, and we know that a chamber is likely to be down there, right? Well, we can just send this at him, right? And we'll just get a ton of space, you know, and once we're here, right, and once this wall has stopped, well, now we're much closer to him, right? Now he has a lot more things to worry about. We can flash through. We're right up in his face all of a sudden. You know, I think for those kind of situations on different maps, very, very powerful against an op. The second ability we have, and I think this will be the controversial one, is Cove, where you basically get this bubble and it has a shield on it, right? And bullets cannot pass through this. Now, you can destroy it with bullets, like I just did there. If you don't destroy it with bullets, I think the whole thing lasts for about 14 seconds, and then you get kind of this one extra like bit of smoke coming from the kind of blue orb inside as well. You'll see as it starts to fade, and you can see it fading here as well. You see the lines start to get dimmer, and they eventually go, and then you get just like this bit of a smoke afterwards where you can then shoot through it the whole way. So the way to counter this is obviously shoot it. Right, you just want to shoot it as quick as you can, and then it will disappear, right? And so this is a very interesting bit of utility that will have a lot of interesting uses, I'm sure. For those of you wondering, the trajectory of this is like a Viper orb. So if you know Viper lineups or whatnot, you know, with an orb, they should be the same, right? They should work the same. Both this and the ability before are one-time use only. As you can see at the bottom, you can only get one charge of them, and this costs 350 credits. Now, this on a pistol round is extremely strong, and your pistol round buy will almost always be this and a frenzy, I think, because you'll be left with 450 credits, and so I think this plus a frenzy will just be your go-to buy, maybe light shields if you want instead, but that will be pretty much your pistol round buy pretty much every time, because this is an extremely powerful ability on pistol rounds, because I mean it takes ages to destroy this thing the whole way with just like a classic. It takes an absolute age. You know, you actually have, like, you know, I've got infinite ammo on here, but you have to reload with both like a frenzy, with a classic. You have to reload those guns, you know, to actually then start spamming it again. So, you know, just a really long time overall on this. And I know a lot of people will be worried about this, but I actually think the way they have designed it is still pretty healthy overall. You know, in gun rounds, it's not going to be that big of an effect, because I can destroy it fairly quickly, you know, and get going and you know, killing you before you plant the spike, right? If I'm right here and you're trying to plant the spike in front of me, you know, I've got enough time to spam that and you before the spike even goes down. So I think, you know, a lot of people I think were worried about bullet blocking effects, but I wouldn't be too worried. Now, when it comes to other utility used against it, other utility can go through it, right? A Sova dart or whatever it might be, other utility can pass through it absolutely fine. The only things that can't, I think I've been told, are, you know, other basically guns, you know, jet knives, a chamber ult, a chamber, you know, headhunter, those kind of things that shoot bullets essentially, or, you know, bullet-like objects, are going to go, you know, and be hit by it. You know, you're going to have to destroy it with them. They won't go straight through it. I think Neon ult as well is included in that, but Raze ult is not. I think that's what I've heard. If that's misinformation, I'm sorry, but deal with it. Now we come to the E, which is probably any agent's most important ability, and the E for Harbor is, of course, as I'm sure many of you will know, is this water wall that you can bend around certain areas like this and create, you know, a lot of problems for your opponent by bending the wall. Overall, I found that bending the wall is not 100% accurate. It can be sometimes tricky to control. I'm sure as people get better with it and get, you know, more used to it, people will get better and it'll be easier to control and you'll know what to do. You can just, you know, press it and let it go. You can also press it, curve it a bit, and then stop it with a right click, but you can't just, you know, send it and then stop it with a right click, right? I'm pressing right click, as you can see, aim there. It will wait the whole thing, so you do have to curve it slightly if you do want to just end it quicker. You can't just let it go, and again, you can see I get a slight slow effect as I walk through the wall as well. This wall will last 14 seconds and has a 40-second recharge, so 26 seconds in between each use of the smoke. And you know, it's pretty good. It works similar to a Viper wall. It isn't as long as a Viper wall. It is a bit shorter than a Viper wall overall, but you know, you can curve it, which obviously does give you more options there overall. As for instance, you can do stuff like this. Let's say we were attacking down here, you know, you can cover off 2 choke points quite easily from a lot of different angles, and you know, be doing stuff like this. And you can see even here it does go to basically the highest wall that it can, like so, right? Like so, you just saw it go up there. It will go onto higher surfaces as well. Crucially, I should also note, though, it can be shot through. I know a lot of people had issues and maybe were scared that this couldn't be shot through. It can completely be shot through. It's only the Q ability that you know, has this kind of shield to it. Everything else completely spammable. You know, you can fire away. And then the final ability, the Reckoning, his ult, is quite interesting, and I've come here to the range to show you this, but basically what it does is it creates a big area of effect in front of you. Basically, you're gonna see you get this big circle and it travels forward, right? You can't throw it out, you just, you know, it travels forward slowly, as you can see there, and it lasts about 10 seconds overall. And what's going to happen basically is it's going to send out 3 pulses of stuns, essentially, and those stuns are going to be pretty short, but it's going to tell you also, you know, you're going to see how many circles are on the ground, and that's going to tell you basically how many opponents are in there, as we can see from the bots here. And I'll just show you what the stun looks like if you're in it. You know, it's not the longest lasting stun, you know, it's there, but it's not the longest lasting one. But obviously, if you get hit by the first one, then, you know, you're going to struggle to get out of the way of the second one, and then you're going to struggle to get out of the way of the third one and whatnot, right? So this is a very interesting ult because it also gives you information, don't forget. If I cast it over here and, you know, no one's in the way, or these bots, you know, just get in the way of it, but now that no one's in the way, right, none of those circles are going off. And it does make a little sound effect as well for you. So if no sound effects are going off, you know that a big area of the map is completely clear of your opponents. Or if you are coming onto a site and you release this, right, you're going to be able to sometimes see these circles of where your opponent is hiding. So it's going to give you good information of where they are as well. And they're probably gonna have to move, right? They're gonna have to move out. You'll see that circle coming around where they are. You'll have good information. This, I think, at first I was a bit like underwhelmed with this ult and feeling like it wasn't too good. But after thinking about it more, the information that it provides is extremely good. And I think the way you'll want to use this ult on attack is obviously just to try and take a site. It's a powerful tool to do that. But on defensive side, I think it will be more of a retake ult. Think of it more kind of like how you would use a breach ult on defense, right? You're often using it for those retakes. And I think even more so than a breach ult, you will use it because it's not the best ult for stopping an opponent, I don't think, right? Because if you do this to them, obviously it travels forward. But obviously if they're running this way at you, right, and they're coming in towards sight, you know, they're just going to run out of the circle pretty quick. So I don't think it's the most useful for trying to stop an attack on defense. I'm not saying it's useless for that, you know, kind of role. It still will be useful on some maps, but I think its primary use will be as a retake ult on most maps. And so, what are my overall thoughts? Well, my overall thought is a couple things. One, he's incredible against ops, right? Let's say one of these bots has an op. What are they going to do when I do this, and then I, you know, send this at them, and then I send this thing that they can't shoot through with an op at them, right? Good luck, op. Good luck, chamber op. See you next week, chamber op. And considering we are in a chamber meta, you know, that's very, very useful right now, right? That's going to be extremely good for countering chambers and countering these angles that they might be on, because you just have a ton of smokes. I mean, especially this wall as well, right? Like, just giving you that space to close the gap to these ops overall. Very, very useful indeed. And I think, He's just going to be extremely good at trying to deal with that, and that is a massive, massive plus. But I also think, on the whole, he is just pretty good, pretty useful, pretty versatile, I'll say as well. The fact that you can curve the walls, you know, means that there really isn't anything, as long as you have good mastery of it, there really isn't any choke point that you shouldn't be able to smoke off effectively if you have, like, perfect mastery of it, right? As we go forward through the months and people get really good at this agent, you know, there's not going to be any map where he can struggle to smoke stuff off as long as you are good enough to, you know, curve the walls correctly, because it does go pretty quick, right? It isn't the easiest thing to do on maps to get it, you know, precisely, but if you can get good enough with it, then I think this agent has a ton of value, and I think will be a very good agent overall. I think he has a solid ult. I think his abilities mesh together well. He's very good into the current meta, I think, and so I would expect you'll be seeing quite a bit of Harbor. I do think his primary role will be as a second controller on, you know, maps that you see him. But I think on certain maps you can also just stick with Harbor enough, and he will have enough smoke overall to make that work for your team.